Today we are doing a class on the Sefer Yetzirah, which in English translates the Book of Formation. It's written by our patriarch, Abraham Aveeno. It's very important that we define the Sefer Yetzirah because not everyone has a clear definition of what it is. There are a lot of people that have read books regarding the Sefer Yetzirah, but those books have still not given a clear definition of what it's all about. You have to know that the Sefer Yetzirah, it's a manual for meditation. It's a manual for meditation with codes that are very advanced, capable of manipulating the natural laws. It's also the second most ancient book known to us after the Raziel Hamalach. When I say that it's a meditation manual, this means that we first have to reach a level of superconsciousness, because we have consciousness, then we have the altered state of consciousness, and then we have the superconsciousness. It's a level of consciousness that is very, very elevated. And this book, if we follow it right, we will see that we are going to do a spiritual ascension. The techniques of the Sefer Yetzirah are extremely sophisticated, and we will see its complexity. The beauty of this text is that it does not allow a pilpul. You might ask, what is a pilpul and why doesn't it allow it? A pilpul is a discussion, and it is not permitted because the discussion comes at the point that the mind is divided. That is to say that the moment that we reason with duality, we have a discussion, because the discussion always has to be between two things, and normally they oppose each other. They apparently contradict each other, and that is where we get a discussion. In this level of discussion, it's the level of Bina, but the Sefer Yetzirah elevates us to the level of Chokhmah, where everything is unified in one consciousness and there's no duality. Therefore, there is no back and forth discussion. At this level, there is no variation of opinions that contradict each other. This type of discussion is found in a much lower consciousness, which is Bina. And Bina is already an elevated state of consciousness, but Chokhmah is a super state of consciousness, which is a step higher than Bina. You also have to know that the study of the Sefer Yetzirah is a study that will give us mental powers. That is to say that we are entering what we call the extrasensory realm, and with these mental powers, we are going to use the cosmos as if it was our computer. These are already definitions which are much more detailed than what we knew about the Sefer Yetzirah. The contents of the Sefer Yetzirah are advanced techniques that will define in great detail the Sephirot of the Tree of Life. It will be about the combination of the Hebrew letters, how to combine them, and why we combine them. It'll be about the universe, it'll be about the soul, it'll be about the stars, and most importantly, it will tell us how to ascend. It will also connect us with the divine thought. Therefore, it's also a manual of connection. And it would give us a divine engineering that would have been impossible to discover by a human being alone. That is to say that it either comes through us through an extrasensory perception, or there's no way of knowing how the divine thought functions. So then, what Abraham Aveeno did was that he made a prophetic connection and received from another world this information on how this whole universe puts itself at the disposal of the Jewish people. We would talk about Abraham Aveeno, but then we will enter into detail about his story. But what we have to know about Abraham Aveeno is that he was initially an astrologist, and he passed from astrologist to Kabbalist. That's to say that he ascended. The astrologist has a level of consciousness, but the Kabbalist is many steps above the astrologist. With this evolution, Abraham Aveeno shows us how he goes from astrologist to Kabbalist. He will also reveal to us the secret of the Jewish calendar. He will also connect us with another personality of the Bible called Bezalel. Bezalel was a man who God gave him a gift, a prophetic gift. He was given the know-how to combine the Hebrew letters to create matter. We have to understand that he created a temple in a desert where there was nothing, only with the power of combining the Hebrew letters. This wisdom comes from Abraham Aveeno. So now we have just talked about the level of understanding or wisdom called Chokhmah. Now we will see that from Chokhmah, we will go down to Bina, and from Bina down to Dot. These are three very important Sephirot: Chokhmah, Bina, and Dot. We will see how to combine these three Sephirot starting from Chokhmah. All of this we will discuss in various classes. Now we are talking about a mystical knowing based on an experience lived by Abraham Aveeno. And after Abraham Aveeno, this knowing was kept by Jewish mystics that isolated themselves in order to guard this knowing, and they hid from the Romans. The Romans labeled them as the Essenes. The Essenes were Kabbalists and mystics that were very respectful of the knowing of Moshe Rabbeinu. That is to say, of the original Torah. They also lived with a code of secrecy that did not allow them to divulge the secrets of the Torah. And that's to say that the secrets of the Sefer Yetzirah were never divulged, but were guarded for centuries. But then a Kabbalist from the first century began to discover and teach this knowing. His name was Rabbi Nu-Nia ben Akana. This rabbi wrote a book called the Sefer Akana, which the title carried his last name. It was a knowing that was before the writings of the Talmud. We owe it to the Essenes, the guarding of the Sefer Yetzirah. The connection between the lower world, which is the physical world, and the upper world, which is the spiritual world, is done via a practice called Maseh Merkabah. And it is nothing more than methods of Kabbalistic meditation. The ascension of consciousness is done via a technique that we have yet to see in the Zohar. In the Zohar, we have seen the Yehudim, which are combinations of letters, combinations of names of God. Here we're going to see the Zeruf, that is to say, the permutation of letters, to change the places of letters within a word. The Zeruf is what provokes the ascension of consciousness. And we are going to work extensively with the Zeruf. And one of the permutation of the word Zeruf is the word Sipor, which means bird. Sipor and Zeruf are the same letters. One means permutation and the other one means bird. There was a Kabbalist who used to say that when he meditated, the birds would become fried. But it wasn't the birds that became fried, but what became fried was the whole secret of the permutation of a concept. He would get a word and permutate it in all possible ways. This is what he meant by the bird being burnt. So the Sefer Yetzirah is the meditation manual, the workshop of the Zerufim, that is to say, the permutations. You will see that the more we permutate, the more we ascend. You will see that the Sefer Yetzirah has been an oral knowing. As I said earlier, it came before the Talmud. It begins to come out of its hiding place in the 10th century by two great Kabbalists. One was Sadia Gaon, and the other one was Shabtai Donolo. And then in the 13th century, by a rabbi that I admire a lot, Rabbi Abraham Abulafia, Alaba Shalom. And finally, the Gaon de Vilna, that is the genius of Vilna. And then another rabbi that we're very familiar with, the Arizal. They immerse themselves in the secrets of the Zeruf. This can be titled the definition of the Sefer Yetzirah, what we just discussed. So therefore, we're in the midst of a manual for spiritual ascension. We're not going to pick up the text directly from the Sefer Yetzirah. We're going to go directly into deciphering the secrets, as so that we won't waste time on this very coded book. The text of the Sefer Yetzirah is very dark. In reality, it's a book that only has about 70 pages. But what we are going to unveil here are months of work. You have to understand that the different Kabbalists have given different versions of the Sefer Yetzirah. They have purposely given wrong interpretations in a purposely manner. And that's because the power of the Sefer Yetzirah gives a cosmic power, and it gives an extra sensory perception that is very advanced. So what have the Kabbalists done? They have permutated the concepts as to confuse, so that he that is very entrenched in the Zohar HaKadosh has the tools needed to put in the correct order, again, what the Kabbalists from the 10th and 13th century put in disorder intentionally. So that if anyone who would want to do strange and black magic would be confused and get nothing out of it. What we are going to give within what is allowed, we are going to give clear concepts, not confusing and not altered. We are not going to do any alterations to the Sefer Yetzirah. There are things that I will give, and there are things that I will not give. We have to understand that the Sefer Yetzirah develops with lots of precision the concept of the tree of life. Then you might ask, what is the tree of life? We have now defined the Sefer Yetzirah, and now we're going to define the tree of life, because all of the Hebrew letters and all of the permutations serve to give life to the tree of life. What is meant to give life to the tree of life? In the metaphoric sense, it is that a tree would have a rise in its knowledge. Then that tree comes to life. It is not the same a tree that doesn't have knowledge, that even if it's planted, it is dead, than a tree that has knowledge and is alive. What we want to do is to give this tree of life a rise in its knowledge, to give it life. Just like a body with a soul begins to have life, Therefore, the tree of life needs its knowing. The first thing that you have to know is that the tree of life is based on the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Why? Because the tree of life has 10 sephirot, of which each one connects to each other via 22 paths. Each path is a Hebrew letter. That is how this knowledge circulates within the tree of life. And the 10 sephirot combined with the 22 path gives us the numeric value of 32. And we know that the entire Torah is 32. Why? Because the Torah begins with the letter Bet, which is equal to 2, and it ends with the letter Lamed. The first word of the Torah is Bereshit. It starts with the letter Bet. Its numerical value is 2. The last word of the Torah is Israel. And the last letter of Israel is Lamed, which its numerical value is equal to 30. So if we unite the first letter and the last letter in the Torah, Lamed with Bet, it gives us the word Lev, which means heart, with a numerical value of 32. What this means is that in all of the Torah, what is not taught is how knowledge functions within the tree of life. And what is the tree of life? Nothing more or less than our soul with all its virtues. And the tree of knowledge of good and evil is nothing more or less than our body with all its physical senses that do not stop deceiving us. Then, from the time that we speak about numbers, we enter in a plurality. That is to say that we enter into the world of Bina. But when we harmonize all of these numbers into one concept of a divine thought, then we are talking about Chokhmah. The plurality ends, and now we are left with one concept. In the Zohar classes, I explained that you can have several light bulbs, each painted a different color. You can have a yellow light bulb, you can have one red, you can have one green, etc., etc. And when we energize these light bulbs, it'll give us a colorful atmosphere, which are the color of the lights. But in reality, the filament that is full of electricity, which gives out the light, in reality, it is white. So therefore, the part of the filament that is energized and it is white, we can say that it's Chokhmah. And the part that is plural, which is all of the different colors that we have painted the light bulbs, this can be called Bina. So when we speak about electricity, that's a soul concept in itself because the electricity does not have colors. It's pure energy. Then we are in Chokhmah. But when that energy, we want to give it a color, for example, that energy can give the color of love, the color of fertility, the color of intelligence, the color of good thoughts, the color of generosity. In reality, what we are doing to the energy is that we are giving it a color. But in the end, it's nothing more than energy. Then we have to understand that knowledge is Chokhmah. And how does it manifest itself inside the Sephirot? Then now that is Bina. And now we enter into plurality. Then from there we understand that God is unity. It is the energy in its purest form. It is the consciousness in its purest state. But He created plurality so that we may have virtues and qualities. That is to say, he subdivided that energy and gave it colors. Just like when we say that the light is white, but in the rainbow, we can perceive it as 7 different colors. So then when we speak about the 10 Sephirot and the 22 Hebrew letters, we're talking about states of consciousness. They are methods of thinking of divine consciousness and how that divine consciousness gets close to mankind with plurality, and how mankind ascends and returns to unity. Then to ascend is to transform plurality into unity, and to descend is to turn unity into plurality. And you will see that our physical perception with our eyes, with our taste, with our smell, with our tactfulness, with our physical perception is always duality. Big with respect to small. Good smells versus bad smells. Sweet as opposed to sour. Good as opposed to bad. This body makes us perceive in a manner of duality. If we ascend in our consciousness, then there is no more good or bad, big or small. There is no duality. All is unity. It is the pure state of the filament. Then the natural world, or nature in Hebrew, it is called Elohim. And Kabbalists all know that this is a different way of saying Elohim. And in the act of creation, in Genesis, the word Elohim appears 32 times. What this means to say is that everything that is nature and all that is perceived with the physical body is Elohim. But with Elohim, you cannot make miracles. The miracles that we've seen in the Zohar are made with Yud-K Vav-K. And Yud-K Vav-K is above Elohim. Here we are no longer in the duality level. Here we have passed to the level of unity. The miracle is when the laws of nature fold and all of our dual perception disappears, and we get to a level where nature is going to obey us because we have situated ourselves in a level of consciousness that is above nature or the natural laws. This is the workshop of the Sefer Yetzirah, putting ourselves above the natural laws. And for that, we have to know how to unify duality, and that is done with the Zeruf. God created this world with plurality. It is up to us to ascend to unity, because in plurality there is chaos, and in unity there is harmony. Then when you eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that is to say that when you submit yourself to your 5 senses, which are physical, you are eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Then you fall under the natural laws. But when you meditate, you make your soul work outside the body, just like when we meditate. Then you are unifying the duality, and we move into the world of harmony. So therefore, the Sefer Yetzirah helps us understand that this world is duality, but it is possible to ascend into a world that there is no pilpul, no duality. And if we learn to climb this ladder, it is the end of pain in this world. Suffering ends. You have to remember that the universe is created in 2 ways. One is whether you let it operate on automatic pilot, which generates a karma that brings chaos and pain. Or you situate yourself in a level of consciousness that is above the universe, and therefore the universe submits itself to you. So then there is harmony. Imagine yourself that you don't know how to ride a horse. Then you get on a horse and you've never learned how to ride a horse. You don't even know that there are reins to control the horse. Where is that horse going to take you? That horse is going to take you wherever it feels like taking you. And he may even throw you off, which is the chaos. Now imagine that you get on a horse after 5 years of training on how to use the reins and how to ride a horse. Now, where's that horse going to take you? Wherever you tell it to go. Now, there's two types of universes. One is a universe where you know how to tame it, and the other universe is where you don't know how to tame it. The Sefer Yetzirah will show you how to ride the universe, and the universe won't take you wherever it wants to take you, but you will take the universe where you want to. That is why the Sefer Yetzirah is a huge manual for that person who has good virtues. He will know how to make this world go well. And that is why we have the Sefer Yetzirah, so that you can make this world a better place, or so that the rider knows how to ride the horse. The names of God and their permutations will show us how God manifests himself in creation. Now then, since God has created us as a microcosm of the grand cosmos, each one of our body parts corresponds to a force of nature. Every part of our bodies corresponds to a force of nature. That is to say that you don't have to go to a star to tell it to do this or that. What you have to do is to go to a body part, because a body part is the keyboard to the force of nature. One more thing. The feet, where do they usually go? By what are they directed? They are directed by the head, your brain. Now it seems that there are a lot of people that seem to be wandering through life without a head. Where do the feet go? Where the head tells them to go. So if you therefore tell your feet to get up and to go get a glass of water, well, then your body's going to get up and your feet are going to start moving, and it's going to go to the kitchen and it's going to look for a glass of water. But then if your feet start moving without your head giving the order, then you have a big problem. Do you know how humanity functions right now? They function without feet and without a head. That is to say, we are without control of the head. The Sefer Yetzirah teaches you how the head should give orders to the natural world, and how your head gives orders to the body, or how the soul reigns over the body and not the opposite. How many times have we gone somewhere and we don't even know where we're going, and our body is on automatic pilot? And the next thing you know, you say to yourself, how did I get here? You'll be surprised as to how many people act in their lives on automatic pilot. So repetitive that they do things without even thinking. For example, tonight, before you go to bed, ask yourself a question. What have I done today? I bet you that 90% of the answers that you come up with are automatic repetitions of what you did the day before, and the day before that, and the day before that. Now, if you have stopped to study the Sefer Yetzirah or the Sefer HaZohar, what have you done today? You have stepped up in a level of consciousness. Then you can say that you have really done something. If not, then you will be like most people. Every day they get up, they get in their cars, they go to work, they come back tired, and then they go to sleep. That is what we call an autonomous life. This type of life, the head doesn't reign over anything. It's a mechanical repetition of the same thing over and over every day. And people can pass a whole lifetime in this everyday cycle, just working and sleeping. So therefore, it's very important that every day before you go to sleep, you ask yourself, what have I done today? And hopefully, then at least you can say that you've done at least a couple of hours worth of things that were worthwhile. We want a life that we are conscious of, and not an autonomous, repetitive life or a robotic life. The Sefer Yetzirah will show you how to do just that, to come out of the autonomous. That's why the Sefer Yetzirah, it is a charm. Then it is said that God created the world in 6 days. This alludes to 2 arms, 2 legs, a torso, a sexual organ. Every day is one of our body parts. 2 arms and 2 legs, it's already 4 days. A torso is 5. A sexual organ is 6. And the head is number 7, which we are then in Shabbat. It is there that we start thinking. That is why 6 represents the material world and 7 represents the consciousness. Now, the Torah says that God formed man in the image of creation. And then it reverses and it says that in his image he created. Why does it say it one way and then it reverses and says it another way? And that's because one has to do with the superconsciousness and the other one has to do with the natural laws or nature. In the image of creation refers to the natural laws or nature. In his image he created. Now that is referring to the consciousness. So that is to say that we are made from the tree of life, which is our soul with all of its consciousness, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which is the natural world or nature. What do we have in nature? We have 2 arms, 2 legs, a torso, and a sexual organs. Now, to get into a little bit more into the structure of the brain, we have talked about 32 paths, which are the 10 Sephirot with 22 paths that connect them. That is to say, we have 31 nerves that come out of the spinal cord, plus 1 which is a complex cranial nerve. The nervous system is a street with 2 dimensions. And what does this mean? The messages go from the brain to the body, but then there's also messages that come from the body to the brain. For example, if you burn your finger, the information goes from the finger to the brain. So there are messages going out with information, and there are messages coming in with information. So therefore, our consciousness with the cosmos also functions using outgoing messages and incoming messages of information. What is meant is that we can send an input to the natural world into the universe, and then the universe responds back to us by sending us back a message. How do we send a message to the universe? We do it via meditation with the names of God. And how do we receive a response back from the universe? We receive it in the form of a circumstance that the universe sends us. A circumstance that we have fabricated. Just like between the brain and the body, there is a nervous system that works in 2 directions. Between the universe and our consciousness, there is also a nervous system that works in 2 directions. Flow out and flow in. There is a saying that the way it is above, it is below, and the way it is below, it is above. And in the tree of life, we shall see that the paths do not only go from Keter to Malhut, but also from Malhut to Keter. The Sefer Yetzirah is telling us with this that the mind can take control of creation. And also through the body, we can get to a mental ascension. That is to say that from the mind, we can go to creation and from creation, which is our body, we can go into a mental ascension. From the mind to the body and the body to the mind. So therefore, we have a double transmission that is bombarding with information. So the first vehicle that we have to study is not man, but the divine mind and its universe. So God gives an order to the universe, and the universe obeys. But I can tell you one thing, that the power has been given to us via a functional manual that is called the Zohar HaKadosh and the Sefer Yetzirah. Just like God controls his universe, God has told us that we can also do it. And that's why he has given us 5 dimensions. 5 is the numerology of the letter He. The letter He is the letter that God inserted in the name of Abram, and he made him Abraham by inserting the letter He. We have seen that 5 is the 5 sounds that come out of the vocal system, which are guttural, palatal, lingual, dental, and labial. But 5 is also the 5 dimensions that we have to learn. Up to now, this world only knows of 4. The Sefer Yetzirah is going to roll out the 5th dimension. The 5 dimensions are: first dimension is height, second dimension is width, the third dimension is length, the fourth dimension is time. So we live in a physical space, but in reality it's the 4 cardinal directions up and down. And we also live in a space that is temporary. So therefore, what is the 5th dimension? The 5th dimension is the ascension of consciousness. Until now, we still have not been able to develop it. That is to say that man is not complete or mature yet. He is in the process of maturing. Just like an orange is acidic until it becomes sweet, when man or woman begins to develop the ascension, and the Sefer Yetzirah has to teach us how to ascend, then the orange turns from acidic to sweet. Then the human being will pass from intolerable to very pleasant. So what are the 5 different dimensions? They are the 4 cardinal directions up and down: time and ascension. This is a major concept of the Sefer Yetzirah. The ascension is the training of the mind via meditation over the permutation of letters called Zeruf, which will give us peace, consciousness of love, the compassion, and the spiritual wisdom. And to have peace, consciousness, spiritual wisdom, we have to reach the 5th dimension. Just like they have taught us mathematics, physics, history, geography, we have not been taught to ascend. So we have learned to have lots of physical comfort, but very little consciousness of peace, consciousness of love, very low levels of compassion, and very low levels of spiritual wisdom. We're lacking a signature teaching in the schools and universities, which is the 5th dimension. And here we will teach the 5th dimension. The functional tool to this ascension is the meditation over the permutations of the Hebrew letters. Let's go ahead and show you. Let's take an example. The first word in the Torah is Bereshit. Let's start permutating. Barashit, which means created 6. Brit Esh, alliance of fire. Shabbat Ra'i, the mirror of Shabbat. Bet Reshit, 2 beginnings. These are the same letters rearranged in a different manner. And like this, you can develop many words using the word Bereshit. And for every permutation, there will be a concept of peace, a concept of love, a compassion, and spiritual wisdom for each permutation. When we train ourselves in this, we will develop our spiritual muscle of love. But since we are not trained in this, our horse takes us to chaos because we do not know how to pick up the reins. Imagine what would happen if we get all of humanity to ascend to this super consciousness. Imagine what could happen. First, we would have to teach on how to ascend, and then we would have to practice it. We would have to practice the permutations. Then you will see that we will quickly reach Chokhmah. We have said that Moshe Rabbeinu reached Bina. Mashiach will reach Chokhmah. You have to remember that Moshe Rabbeinu, although he reached a high level and did many things, he didn't accomplish one thing. He didn't redeem humanity. You can do many miracles in the level of Bina, but the miracle of redeeming humanity is in the level of Chokhmah. Because Chokhmah, the permutation is Choach Ma. Choach means strength, and Ma is equal to 45, just like the word Adam. Choach Ma is the strength of man. The strength of man is the spiritual ascension. That is Choach Ma. Choach Ma, Choach Adam. How many Kabbalists have there been in the history of humanity? How many Tzaddikim? How many wise men? How many knowers of Torah? But who has redeemed the world? Nobody. Who has made this world a world of love and compassion? Nobody. It's all been words. The results have been chaos, wars, genocides, inquisitions. We have not made humanity ascend to the fifth dimension. We have not been able to do it. However, the Sefer Yetzirah is the manual to the fifth dimension. On the screen, we have Israel, we have Rosh Li, we have Yasher El, Yesh Ra'al, and Shir El. The type of meditation that we have done up to this point has been using Yehudim, and that's combining the Hebrew letters. But now we're going to change it up a little bit. With the Sefer Yetzirah, we're going to train the mind to permutate the letters of words. Let's start with this example. We have the word Israel, which is Yud Shin Resh Aleph Lamed. We're going to do 4 different permutations from this word, and we're going to use the same letters, and they're going to create new concepts. This type of permutations will generate leaps in consciousness so that we may understand new concepts that come out of one word. When we learn how to permutate letters within the same word, we have asserted our chokhmah. This will give us an extrasensory power. So we have Israel, which is a way of understanding a country or a place. The same letters permutated differently gives us Rosh Li, which translated means my head. Then it also gives us Yasher El, directly to God. Then we have Yesh Ra'al. This gives us an equation that gives us 231, which is the combination of the 22 Hebrew letters taken 2 by 2 without duplication. This will give us Yesh, which means there is, and Ra'al, which means 231 permutations. We also have Shir El, which means the secret of God. And all this is to say that if a person is not from Israel, or they may not be from Israel, but that person has ascended to Rosh Li, or they are Yashir El, directly with God, or Shir El, the secret of God, because they have studied the Zohar and the Sefer Yetzirah, then if this is the case, then they are part of Israel. These are different ways of understanding the same thing. Now we're going to close our eyes and begin to visualize these permutations, and we can also pronounce them. We're not going to illuminate them. We're just going to exhibit them in our minds. So you can close your eyes and let's go ahead and breathe 3 times deeply. And this is going to relax us. We are first going to show them, and then slowly the mind of those that are training and permutating, the mind will automatically begin to permutate within a word until they find a new meaning. So let's visualize Israel. And then let's go ahead and work a little to permutate. And this will give us Rosh Li. And then we visualize Yashir El. We visualize Yesh Ra'al. And then we visualize Shir El. These are all different concepts. And if you have trouble visualizing them, just go ahead and open your eyes and then take a quick picture and close them. And now we speak to Metatron, Sandalphon, and Mashiach, that they may communicate the importance of this zeruf, the importance of these permutations. And then everyone can have a conversation with Metatron, Sandalphon, and Mashiach. And then we breathe 3 times deeply. And we open our eyes.